Hello, everyone. Thank you for being able to join today's call. We're going to get started so we can make sure we hear all of our presenters today. Again, thank you for joining today's call. My name is Gary Jenkins, and I'm with the National Alliance of State and Territorial AIDS Directors, where I manage our youth portfolio in our Racial and Ethnic Health Disparities Program. Here with me is Sandra Sedner-Smith, who is with the National Coalition of STD Directors. We, along with the Association of Maternal and Child Health Programs and the Society of State Directors of Health, Physical Education, and Recreation, comprise the National Stakeholders Collaborative, or the NSC. The collaboration is supported through a cooperative agreement with CDC's Division of Adolescent and School Health Programs. So I will stop there and just give you a quick overview of today's webinar. As I've begun telling you about the National Stakeholders Collaborative, we're going to then talk very briefly about what positive youth development is. And then we're going to hear from our selection of guests examples of positive youth development approaches that have been applied to state departments of health and education prevention efforts. So moving forward, again, the NSC is comprised of AMCHP, NASTAD, NCSD, and the Society. And as I just mentioned, we operate under a memorandum of understanding or an agreement that helps form our collaborative efforts, and all of our work is supported with funding by CDC-. The mission of the NSC is to develop state-level interagency partnerships to improve adolescent, reproductive, and sexual health programs through shared visions and joint strategies. These dynamic partnerships involving departments of health and education officials create and implement effective programs and policies to prevent HIV/AIDS and other STDs, as well as unintended pregnancies among school-age youth. And so we accomplish this mission by providing state health and education agencies having a desire to improve adolescent health an opportunity to assess their programmatic gaps, share knowledge and information, and decrease duplication of efforts, as well as leverage resources to address common interests. Collaboration across agencies and health categories enables states to focus on overall sexual reproductive health and elevate the importance of youth as a priority. As we will hear from today's presenters, positive youth development shifts the paradigm in how we view young people and our understanding of their roles that they can play in improving not only their educational outcomes, but their health outcomes as well. And so before I move forward with positive youth development, I will tell you about who will be speaking with you today, just very briefly. I will include a full bio in the follow-up of today's webinar. But first, we will hear from Greg Williamson, who is the Director of Learning and Teaching Support in Washington State. Then we will also hear from Reverend Octavius Tukes, who is a Project Director of Safe Schools Healthy Students Initiative with Madison County School District in Florida. Then we'll also hear from Sina Zipperer, who many of you may already know, has been with the Florida Department of Education Coordinated School Health HIV/AIDS Prevention Education Program, where she operates as their coordinator and has been there for the past 8 years. And then we will finally hear from Shay Chapman, who is the State Adolescent Health Coordinator for the Florida Department of Health. So when we're talking about youth development, what we mean is that positive youth development is an approach that looks beyond problems and deficits of youth behavior and focuses on their capacity and strengths and developmental needs of young people. This framework recognizes that young people need positive, supportive relationships as well as challenging and meaningful experiences that are age appropriate. Therefore, the core elements of youth development are the following. While they are strengths-focused, rather than underscoring the deficits that place youth at risk, greater emphasis is placed on building their strengths, or what we consider their assets, particularly in resilience, to achieve positive health outcomes. Another aspect of youth development is youth engagement, involving providing opportunities for young people to have more meaningful involvement in prevention activities, where they become partners in prevention rather than merely targets of interventions. And it also offers opportunities for young people to develop competencies and skills particularly needed for the successful transition into adulthood. Youth-adult relationships. These are positive, affirming relationships where youth development is more a model of mentorship, where youth can feel connected and have a sense of belonging and acceptance from adults. Youth voice. It's offering young people a chance to participate in the development and enhancement of programmatic activities, particularly with regard to prevention and education, where these programs can, with their input, become more authentic in reaching their peers. Opportunities for community involvement. This is the recognition that all segments of society are instrumental in contributing to the well-being of its younger members. Long-term commitment. Positive youth development is not a short-term Band-Aid approach. Rather, it is ongoing in providing relationships and opportunities that can help young people succeed. As we will note from our presenters, when describing their programs, considerations for their efforts in engaging young people offer them the opportunities that we just mentioned in making significant decisions, in gaining knowledge and new skills, in helping develop and participate in meaningful activities, as well as in developing feelings of self-efficacy and having an opportunity to reflect on the contributions that they've given. So next we will hear from Greg Williamson.
Thanks, Gary. I'm Greg Williamson. I'm the Director of Learning and Teaching Support here in Washington State at the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. And I'm also serve as the Coordinated School Health Manager for the Education Department, and that's where Gary and I have met before. Student engagement in Washington State is something that I'm going to talk to you about a little bit about the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction's role in this work. And I want to do that from a recognition that I'm talking from the education side. I'm going to link to the health side as I can. And I'm also talking about the state education agency. So lots of activities are happening in schools, community organizations, youth-led activities across Washington State, just like they are in your state. But what I'm going to talk about is sort of what can a state education agency in partnership with a state health agency do to support this work around health, and then specifically how do we look at some of the reproductive and sexual health issues, as well as inclusion of all the people that we want to be involved in this effort from a student perspective. So the first thing I'll just point out is that we've had student engagement here at the state agency in a statewide way for quite some time, since the early 90s. I'm not going to read through all these different things for you. I'll let you look at them, but we did actually establish a student engagement office here at the state agency in 2005, and a lot of these activities have been related to that. In 2000, we were able to, we'd had youth engaged in service ambassadors, and we'd had student engagement people on staff here at SPI for a while, but in 2000 we were able to hire a gentleman that some of you may have heard of before named Adam Fletcher, who was able to start with us this meaningful student involvement research. And Adam's been able to do a fair amount of that on a nonprofit basis since then, and you may have been to Common Action or soundout.org, which are websites that will give you a lot more information on meaningful student involvement. We've done a bunch of statewide projects here that have engaged young people in all different kinds of roles over the years. And a couple of them that I want to talk about specifically through the student engagement team approach in the student engagement office were students creating and implementing strategic plan for student engagement for the state from the school side, and this student engagement team model. And the student engagement team was based on making sure that you're working with all the different social networks in the school and that you're using a systems change approach. But this is student-led activity. The students in Brewster, Washington and Eastern Washington adapted what we had called the student-to-student statewide lesson, which was a student-taught lesson, and they did some work to establish to engage Latino first-generation college students in that, and we've had a lot of other work that's happened from that where student-driven work that's culturally appropriate and fits the community where you're trying to do the intervention is driven by those students. And we ask them, how do you see yourself in the work, and then they engage with it. Students in Tacoma created an engaged, enraged rubric that was then presented to faculty of higher education institutions and to the legislature. And this is a tool that says, instead of going online and sort of evaluating your teachers and saying nasty things about them, that you create this rubric about a developmental approach to improving teachers' ability to engage with students. All these activities have been student-led, student-driven activities, youth-adult partnerships that we've done to get people's attention about working with students in a different way. Renton students created a climate and culture rubric to engage in school improvement planning, and that was the first time that we knew at a statewide level where students were empowered to really help drive school improvement planning at the local level. Also during this same time period, 11-year-old Alex Johnlin got some legislation passed to create the State Legislative Youth Advisory Council, and that's important because it's one of the stories I'm going to tell you about in just a little bit more detail. So in the 2009 cycle, and I'm doing this chronological thing, and then I'm going to talk about some current efforts and give you some key concepts to remember as we go on to the next presenter. But I want to tell you a couple of stories here about what's gone on the student engagement side and how we've linked with the Department of Health since 2008-2009. The State Legislative Youth Advisory Council meets about 6 times a year, and this is a group of students from ages 14 to 18, and it's a very broadly representative group. We've had several GLBTQ students who have been members of the organization or worked with the organization. We've had students who were interested in sexual and reproductive health issues who've been on this group. And there's a site, I'm going to send out some websites, probably not today, probably after the event, that will give you some information about how this civic engagement forum came to be. If you go to findyouth.info.gov and you look at for Washington State Civic Engagement Forum, you're going to find a whole set of videos and other resources about the State Legislative Youth Advisory Council's efforts working with students from dropout programs, working with students in health programs, working in prevention and intervention programs, and working with students from mental health programs, how they were able to advise the legislature and have been on an ongoing basis to get policy changes in those areas. The second thing I mentioned there is 10 school teams working with the Department of Health. So that first thing was with the Department of Health as well to recruit students from health programs. The second thing I'm mentioning there is 10 school teams get support from Action for Healthy Kids Students Taking Charge program, which is a federal nonprofit effort to create school health projects, and then they presented at our Healthy Schools Summit, and a couple of them are going with me to the American School Health Association Summit. We've got 2 student teams presenting at that this year as well. So if you happen to be going to ASHA, please look us up for our student-led presentations there. In 2010, we also had, I got to work with students here in the Tumwater area to have them lead the school health index analysis of their school. They did this in a way to meet their classroom-based assessment requirements for their local social studies and civics requirements for the state. Some current efforts that we're doing is we have this Youth School Health Cadre is one of the 7 groups that's a member of our statewide Coordinated School Health Network. And so those are young people working with adults to do statewide school change. We have student engagement built into several RFPs and MOUs in several different education and health agency programs. We've got the Department of Health works with the tattoo groups on tobacco use. We've got various sexual health peer mentor programs that happen in the state as well. There are groups statewide that have worked to support BGLTQ youth achieve, it's a larger effort around bullying and anti-discrimination, but we've also had youth groups involved in those efforts, and we're going to have youth groups benefit from the changes in bullying and harassment law and an anti-discrimination law that includes sexual identity now in Washington State. We have student engagement strategies that are featured in our student support model, this is a statewide model we're using to advise our school district improvement processes and our state school funding plans. This is created in combination between the State Education, Health, and Social Services Department. We just had a meeting on this morning. And so this is a thing that's statewide, recommendations to the State Board of Education, recommendations for changes on funding, and it includes meaningful student involvement, student engagement, positive youth development concepts to support school activities and school efforts. Some key concepts to remember about these things that we have learned over time is listen, act, repeat. So a lot of times young people will get, adults will visit them and listen to their ideas, and then we'll ask the young people, so how did that process go? Where did the conversation start? And a lot of times they'll say, the adults will say the conversation starts at listen, and the young people will say the conversation starts at act. When you acted on something that I suggested, that begins to build trust in the school about young people being able to make these conversations. School youth who are more involved in the decisions that affect them and care more about education and health do better in school and life. Authentic audiences matter. Get the whole system in the room. Start anywhere in your system and go everywhere in your system. These are just systems change principles that we share with young people, and that they hear and work with the adults to do comprehensive school-wide or community-wide change efforts, including health clients as well. Engagement includes behavioral, cognitive, and emotional factors, so being sure to address those things as you get going is a key thing as well. As I mentioned, and I hope folks are able to hear some of what I'm talking about here. Maybe you can, just a second.
So have people not been able to hear any of this? Maybe this is a little better. He gets the note about talking louder into a different phone. So the last thing I'm going to say about this is maybe the most relevant thing, which is that we're going to post some links to these different things afterwards. My contact number information is greg.williamson@k12.wa.us. That's greg.williamson at k12.wa.us. I've been able to gather other information about BGLTQ youth programs in Washington State, about sexual health programs in Washington State. I'm going to mention just a couple here. There's a male peer outreach program through Seattle Public Health, Seattle-King County, where with funding from Department of Health Adolescent Male Involvement Project grant, they have a male peer outreach program that workers attend a beginning training, and then they work with folks to answer sensitive questions and how to go to access an adult for further assistance. There's a public health program called Guys Group Plus in Seattle-King County, which again is working on teen pregnancy and STDs issues. And this has a Guys Group, which is a 10-week health education group for at-risk teen males. We have a men's health table that they do in school cafeterias. And then there's a capacity building thing about working with community-based organizations. Teen Health Advocate program is in Clallam County in Washington State, and that's another program that may be interesting to folks to find out about. I'll be sending links to these things out, and as soon as I'm done talking to you, when I can get my multitasking brain to work just a little bit better, I'll be posting my email in the chat group so you can see that. I'm just taking a pause here as I'm about to transition to your next speaker to see if there are other questions that people, okay, what was the bill number of the legislation? I will let you know that. The legislation that deals with discrimination and the legislation that deals with bullying and harassment were adult and community efforts largely, and young people participated. But I'm also going to give you the specific stuff where the young people through the Legislative Youth Advisory Council were able to make sort of a more direct difference. Evaluation information, yes, we have evaluation data on several of these programs, and that might be things like young people saying, I learned more about the subject matter from a youth peer mentor delivery system, as well as things about the content. When I talk about authentic audiences, I mean, do you have a real product that you're producing? And do you have a real authentic audience that is going to see that product and make a difference? So this might be young people in a high school or young people through a health department program publishing something that is then used to make policy and environmental changes in public health in that community, that sort of thing. I'm looking for any other questions in the chat box, and then I'll post a few more pieces of information after this, including my email. And I'm so sorry that my phone headset thing was not up louder earlier in the call. Any other last questions before on the matter of homeless youth? What is out there for them connecting to health services and education and improving grades? I sit and work with the homeless advocate here in our agency, and we have had young people present at homeless conferences, had young people participate in local discussions about how to better design homeless services for students who are homeless, and I'll connect you with Melinda Dyer in that office as well. Given association between school performance and positive health behaviors, how are you reaching the most at-risk populations? A couple things is we do have programs for out-of-school youth. We have things that are specific training that we provide to young people in schools about how to identify and recruit from different social networks, so that the student engagement team model and other models like that are really imbued with opinions from the quiet and loud leaders in the community. This is not just a sort of a student body kind of thing. This is how do we do outreach the same way we do in communities within the school and community context. So I'm going to wrap up here and hand things back to Gary, and I'll send a few more notes in the chat, and I don't mean to interrupt the presenters after me, but I'll give you a way of contacting me about any of this information so we can do follow-up. And I thank you for your attention and for this great opportunity. Thanks.
Greg, we also thank you. And Greg, I was also glad that you were able to get to some questions. I know you have to get off the call.
Actually, I'll be able to stay, Gary, so that's
fantastic.
My schedule has changed today, so I'll hang around for the whole thing and be around for questions at the end.
Okay, fantastic. Before transitioning over to Sina Zipper and Octavius Tukes, I just want to remind people that, and it seems like everyone is getting familiar with the technology, if you have questions during the presentations, please post those using the chat feature, and we will be sure to get to those. And so moving forward, I'd like to also present Sina Zipper and Octavius Tukes.
Good afternoon. This is Sina Zipper. I am the HIV/AIDS Prevention Education Coordinator with the Florida Department of Education. It's a beautiful day in Tallahassee, Florida. Hope it's a nice day where you all are. And first of all, I'll talk a little bit about partnering in Florida, partnering for success. There we go. We do focus on partnering a great deal in Florida. We work closely with our State Department of Health as well as many other partners throughout the state. And we are working closely with Madison County on a special project. But first, I want to talk a little bit about positive action and how we became familiar with a particular curricula that's been useful in working with students in a positive way, and that would be the positive action curriculum. I think it was probably September of 2009 that I received information, and I believe it was from the Comprehensive Health Education Network regarding the evaluation of positive action and showing that it does have evidence and usefulness with youth and being effective with youth. We did post information about positive action on our website. We do like to make sure that we disseminate information about programs that are shown to be effective. And although we don't promote one program over another, we do like to list a number of programs that are shown to be effective in working with youth. So we did post information about positive action on our website in the current news section for several weeks. And what impressed me the most about positive action was that it was shown to be effective across the board in preventing risk behaviors, but especially the fact that it was shown to be effective in affecting sexual risk behaviors. Also, we, let's see, we did, in the fall of 2009, we did bring together the high-risk task force to look at data, epidemiological data regarding Florida's youth. We looked at information regarding STDs, birth to teen mothers, free and reduced price lunch data as part of the review by the high-risk task force. And this data indicated that several counties in the north part of the state were in need of focused efforts by the HIV/AIDS Prevention Education Program. An examination of youth risk behavior survey during that meeting and during that time indicated that there are disparate numbers of male African-American youth who are involved in sexual risk behaviors. And this indicated to us that we really needed to work toward a partnership with a school district that has a majority of African-American students enrolled, as well as one that had high incidences of STDs and births to teen mothers. Oops, we've gone too far. Sorry. So how did we get involved exactly in working with Madison County? I just told you that story, that short story. But we had to propose a partnership between our program and the Madison County School District and the local health department there with a goal of reducing STDs among youth during the next 3 years. Our plan included providing materials concerning STDs and teen pregnancy and birth information to parents, as well as providing parent trainings and teacher trainings on the topic. County school and health department leadership welcomed our proposal, and that's how we began working with Madison County School District. During an assessment of the county to determine what was already being done to address high STD rates and teen birth rates, we've discovered that Madison County was the only county in the state to have been awarded the Safe Schools Grant, and that's a grant that was offered by the U.S. Departments of Education, Health and Human Services, and the Justice Department. So we proceeded to find out who we needed to contact in Madison County regarding the work focused around the Safe Schools Grant, and I was introduced to Reverend Tukes, who's the coordinator of the Safe Zone Grant in the late fall of 2009. And I was very happy to discover that they had chosen an evidence-based program, such as positive action, as one of the curricula to implement in the district. And subsequently, we used carryover funds in February, this past February, to provide the entire curriculum to the district. And we were very happy to be able to do that. And the partnership between Madison County and our office is a wonderful experience for us. We're becoming very involved in the work that they're doing in the county to promote positive youth development. And now I'm going to turn it over to Reverend Tukes.
Thank you, Zena, for a wonderful intro there and allowing everyone to know how we came to being that we are partners in this together. My name is Octavius Tukes, and I am the project director for the Safe Zone Healthy Students Grant here in Madison County in Madison County, Florida. As Zena was relating, our relationship budded and started to grow as we started to have intercourse relating to the Positive Action Program and the Safe School Healthy Student Initiative, and how we could collaboratively work together to diminish some of the effects of of some of the incidences that were occurring in our community and also in our schools. And as we looked at our statistical base and as to why we should act in Madison County, we found that as we looked at our database, as we looked at the Florida Youth Substance Abuse Survey, and also our local management information system, and looking at those two databases, we found that, and looking at that substance abuse survey, that the largest community risk factors in Madison County was the availability of the use of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, which are mind-altering substances, which would allow children to enter into high-risk behaviors if not abated. And also looking at our management information system and the reports that were coming from the school, we noted that there was an increase in defiance of authority, disobedience, disrespect, alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, harassment and weapons possession, bomb threats, and possession of dangerous objects. All of these were on the rise in our school environment, and we were looking for a way to diminish those types of actions. So we continued to look at our data, and we found that the Florida Youth Substance Abuse Survey showed us that 15.7% of the middle and high school students reported binge drinking, which was defined as the consumption of 5 or more drinks in a row within the last 2 weeks, which was almost as high as the state average of 16.8%. In the middle school, the percent of in-school suspensions for Madison was 28.5%, as compared to the state's 16.6%. And in high school, the percent of in-school suspensions for Madison County was 30.9% as compared to the state's average of 16.2%. Our goal was to reduce violence on campus and also to decrease the use of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs among our students. Now, why did we choose positive action? Because, number one, it was simple to understand, and positive action is easy to use, and it covered all of our gray areas. There's also a evidence-based and research-based, thus it's a science-based program that yielded the type of results that we wanted to see. If you look at the overall effects summary, you'll see that there were improvements, and when this program is implemented with fidelity, that you have a 52% academic achievement improvement, 73% grade retention, and you look at all the other problems that we were having, you show that there's a reduction there also. So we looked at this program and we said, why not use an evidence-based program that will give us the results that we desire and at the same time assist us with the problems that we are having in our community and with our children. So we started to implement this program, and thus far we have implemented it throughout the school system. If you look at the 2010 Hawaii randomized trial, which was published, the results was published in the major journals, one in the American Journal of Public Health and one in the Journal of Research on Educational Effectiveness, you will see that there was, if you looked at the whole study, you would see that there was a diminishing and an increase in the areas that they needed to see a diminishing of behaviors and an increase in behaviors in those certain areas. Positive action, when implemented with fidelity, has been proven to stimulate writing, increase vocabulary, improve reading comprehensions. It motivates intrinsically. So therefore, what the students are receiving, these things give return into lifelong experiences. In other words, it lasts longer than just high school. This is a program that motivates and continues to motivate. And as you look at the long-term effects, you will see that even into adulthood. So when we look at the positive action program and the implementation in our area, we can usually see that even from an early age, from what students' habits we observe, what students' character and destinies might be, that we have an important role in education. We sow the ideas that will determine the destiny of our students. We have a responsibility to assure that destiny is a happy and successful destiny. And as educators, we have a close-up view of how this works. We also have a big responsibility as members of an institution that contributes greatly to the ideas and habits that are formed by the developing child. Now, what does this mean? It means that we are responsible and that positive action is the program that can help us do what we need to do. All the ideas that we are trying to plant. We are trying to use one program to enhance the environment of our schools. When we use positive action will ensure success and happiness. It makes us feel good about who we are, what we are doing, and how we treat others. And the main purpose of society and societal needs is to care for one another as part of our humanity. Positive action works. And if we work together, we will have a better life for everyone, which is the very definition of civilization. Positive action makes a better person, school, family, community, and world. And as we work together collaboratively, we will see a change in our school environment and in our students, and a diminishing of all of the traits that we've noticed in our statistics. Are there any questions? In answering the question, were there any modifications or adaptations needed to the curriculum? There were minor adaptations to the curriculum. It all was based on the time that the teachers had to put the program in place. So therefore, there were some minor adaptations, but no major adaptations that would interfere with the fidelity of the program.
And please remember, we will have an opportunity to have questions answered following the presentation from Shay. And I see some questions have been posted in the chat box, and I think Sina has been answering those throughout the presentation. I wanted to remind everyone that you can't see the questions from other participants because only the presenters see those. It's just a feature of the technology that we're using. But if you have questions, please post those in the chat feature, and we will relay those to the presenter.
There is a question there concerning the racial profile of Madison County schools. The racial profile, there's approximately, we're in a small community of 18,000, and in that 18,000, our school population is 52% black, 49% white, with approximately 2% Hispanic.
And this is Sina. There's a question from Teresa regarding positive action being incorporated with teen pregnancy prevention core curriculum, and if so, is there evaluation on a study to review? I guess Teresa is specifically talking about Madison County. I'm not sure she's talking about Madison County. I guess not. It looks like she's talking about positive action overall, and I cannot answer that. People at Positive Action, the company who developed the program, would probably need to answer that question.
Here in Madison, though, we're working with the Positive Action Program with Zena, and working collaboratively with the two to work with teen pregnancies along with our weight program that's also a part of the Safe Zone along with the Safe Zone programs.
Okay.
The weight program is an abstinence program, is why am I tempted, and Zena has another program that comes in that insinuates and also builds on that particular program. And with the positive action piece, all of it is working together to work with diminishing teen pregnancies here in Madison.
Yes, this is Sina Zipper. We have provided training to some of the health department educators and to teachers in the county to encourage and to provide information to them regarding sexual health education overall, and in particular on working to incorporate lessons in their comprehensive health education requirements or their comprehensive health education offerings there in the county. And so we want to make sure that our teachers are prepared in the county to deliver lessons that will help.
And to Judith's question, have we completed any evaluations of the Positive Action Program in Madison County? This is our first year of implementing. We should have some results after this year. My information will be posted. If you would like to see the results of the evaluation, I'll be more than happy to share that with you. Michael, is it possible to gain access to these training materials, especially those for the health department? I will make available to you what we have.
And Michael, this is Sina again. If that question is addressed to me, I would be happy to share training materials with anyone who requests them. We do have an agenda for the 2 days of training that we provided, and many materials that we provided to the teachers in Madison County during a training on July 26th and 27th of this year. So yes, I would be happy to provide materials, and I'll put my email address in the chat box so that you can send me an email regarding that.
And the question on incarcerated high-risk youth, is positive action being implemented there too? When we to answer that, in our commitment facility, no, but at our alternative school, yes. If there are not any other questions, Gary, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Octavius, and thank you, Sina. We will now hear from Shay Chapman.
Good afternoon. This is Shay Chapman. I am the State Adolescent Health Coordinator in Florida. I work at the Florida Department of Health. I'm also the Director of the newly formed Office of Positive Youth Development. Unlike Greg, who spoke earlier, we're kind of in our infancy with positive youth development. In March of 2009, we started to really look at what we were doing surrounding adolescent health in the department and to see what direction we wanted to move in for the future. And everything that we kept coming back to was the positive youth development approach. And so we decided to look at this further as a department. And as you know, there's a lot of different definitions of what positive youth development is out there. So the first thing we did is decide on a definition that fit what we wanted to do. And so the definition we've adopted is a philosophy and an approach that guides communities in the way they organize programs and support so that young people can develop to their full potential. The next step we looked at were what were the principles of positive youth development we wanted to make sure to incorporate into our approaches. And the first one was positive outcomes. We wanted to make sure we were shifting from preventing problems to creating positive outcomes for the youth. We also wanted to make sure we included a youth voice. We wanted to make sure we were working with the young people and not just for them. We also wanted to make sure that our strategies aimed to involve all youth. We wanted to make sure that we were just not offering opportunities to high-risk youth or those in the high-achieving group. We wanted to make sure we were involving all youth. We also wanted to make sure we included long-term involvement. We want to make sure that we support young people throughout their whole development, not at just different stages. And we want to also make sure we were adjusting to their changing developmental needs. We wanted to make sure we had community involvement. We wanted to make sure that we involved non-traditional community sectors as well, such as businesses, faith communities, and civic organizations, and then the typical community partners as well, the neighborhoods, the school, the friends, and the family. And we also want to make sure we focused on collaboration with we want to make sure that we were collaborating on strategies that needed to be developed and emphasized in Florida. The next step we undertook in Florida when we were starting with our positive youth development approach is to look at the research so that we could defend why we were changing to this approach of reaching youth. And first we looked at the prevention research that was done by Dr. Hawkins and Catalano, and we looked at what predicts and prevents poor health outcomes for youth. Then we looked at the resiliency research that Dr. Warner did and looked at what explains success despite the odds for youth. And last but not least, we looked at the youth development research that was out there and the research that was done by the Search Institute on what predicts and promotes thriving in youth. Once all this was done, we looked at what we were doing traditionally, prevention, intervention, and crisis with youth, and decided we were going to shift to more of the positive youth development approach and focus on shared leadership, participation, and preparation. We named our Positive Youth Development Initiative here at the Department E3, Educating Youth, Equipping Parents, and Empowering Communities. The purpose of our initiative is to enhance the skills and improve the health status of Florida's adolescents and young adults through opportunities and programs developed in collaboration with families, communities, schools, and other public and private organizations in Florida. We want to make sure we're providing a community-based support to help adolescents succeed as they move into adulthood by focusing on their assets of the individual youth and their families. Our sponsored programs reinforce positive attitudes, healthy behaviors and activities, and reduce risk-taking behaviors such as sexual activity, substance abuse, suicide, and behaviors that increase risk of unintentional injury and chronic disease. And then we took some specific steps to make sure this was an agency-wide approach. As many of you probably experience in your own health departments, we tend to work in silos. And we have people doing STD prevention, people doing teenage pregnancy prevention, we have the chronic disease people, and we wanted to make sure that we were working together to use the positive youth development approach in everything that we've done. So the first thing we did was establish an interagency work group. So anyone who touched adolescents within their job became part of this work group. We meet every other week, and we first made sure that everybody was educated on what we were doing, and now we meet to share strategies to make sure we're incorporating the approach in what we do. We then established a county health department liaison. We have 67 counties in Florida, and we have 67 county health departments. We made sure we had one person in each health department who would be our outreach person. And then we offered them a statewide training. We didn't want to just say, hey, you're our person, without offering them training on what positive youth development was. We brought in a national trainer, and with her help, we developed a guidebook and a toolkit and offered a one-day statewide training for the liaison so that everyone was on the same page when using the positive youth development approach. And then we've also developed some program-specific training for some of the programs who asked us for more help. the one specifically we just finished out is a program for our school health nurses who are in the schools in Florida, and it's on how they can do positive youth development in their everyday work, how they can incorporate the model into their everyday work. Some other projects that have come out of our Positive Youth Development Initiative is our WAHI, which is a web automated human interaction, and that can be found at www.teentruth.org. And this project really, we engaged the youth in Florida. We had youth focus groups, and we developed a script, and this is kind of like an interactive drama where, and it addresses female youth, male youth, adults, and community citizens. And the user goes on, and based on their answers to the person on the screen, the narrative changes. And we had youth, parents, and community citizens involved in every step of the way, and the youth really felt like leaders on this project. And I'll be happy to share more information on that with you. We also are making sure that we're working across state agencies. We work with XENA on a regular basis to incorporate the positive youth development approach into all of our activities. And we're hoping to use some of the new upcoming PREP funding to continue our work. Last year we gave out 7 mini grants in 7 counties to use the positive youth development approach in their county. They did 7 different things. We let them tell us what they want to do in their county and what would work. We're getting ready to write up an evaluation of that right now, and I'll be happy to share that as well. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take those at this time.
Hi, Shay. This is Gary Jenkins. Well on time. If anyone has questions, I mentioned you can use the chat feature, but we would like to also open up the lines for people to voice their questions. If you'd like to ask Shay or any of our presenters questions regarding their presentations, hit *7 to unmute your phone.
Okay, one question I have is, you mentioned collaborating with school nurses. Does Florida have a mandate for school nurses? We do have a school health program. There's not a school nurse in every school. In fact, I think there's 1 school nurse per about 5 schools in Florida right now. But we worked with the School Health Nurses Association to disseminate the training.
This is Sina Zipper. There is a county in Florida, Polk County, where the school nurses provide sexual health education in all the schools. They have 12 school health nurses, and they are the ones that are trained to provide sexual health education in the county. That's a very unique situation, so I thought I'd let you know about that.
And then another question is, how do you recruit teens to participate? And I'm assuming this is in reference to the web automated human interaction. We recruited teens through our local community-based organizations that we had partnered with or had grants with in the past. And we just asked them if they had teens who were available to participate. So we had a spectrum of teens, from your school president to high-risk teens in the DJJ facilities that reviewed our stuff. There's a question from Michael Foster, but I'm not sure what program he's talking about. How long did it take you to get this program in full operation? Michael, can you tell me which program you're speaking about?
Remember to unmute your phone. It is *7.
The answer, okay, Michael says the Positive Youth Development Program. About 6 months to get up and running. We started in March of '09. We gave out mini grants in November that ran from November to June. It took us about 9 months to develop the interactive web-based system. And then we have a question, how have youth responded to the Positive Youth Development Program? Great, and I'll be happy to share some of the evaluation of the pilot projects that were done in the counties with the grants. We've had an excellent response from the youth. Zena, I think there's a question for you. It says, do any of your school districts adopt comprehensive sex education for the classroom?
We do have, yes, that's a question from Roy. I see. Thank you, Shay. We do have a district. Collier County has adopted a comprehensive sexual health education policy. We do have other counties that, although their policy is very similar to the general policy at the state level, they provide programs that are very close to what would be considered a comprehensive program. Pinellas County would be one of those. We've had several counties in the past couple of years to move from an abstinence-only program, abstinence-only curricula, to an abstinence plus curricula. St. Lucie County School District uses Get Real About AIDS in the district, and Volusia County has moved towards an abstinence plus program or curriculum in their schools. So we have districts that are moving forward in that respect. Just it's one at a time, but we do have districts that are moving forward in that respect.
And I would like to add, once we did the teentruth.org WAHI here in Florida, we in turn worked with our Bureau of STD Prevention to create another WAHI that's solely focused on STD prevention, and it's faceitflorida.com. I'm going to put that on the screen as well.
Shay, I want to make a comment about that STD WAHI. We use that as part of one of the resources in our training over in Madison County for the teachers and the school nurses. They were very impressed with that. They thought they could definitely use that, in particular the STD WAHI with their students.
And then I have a question that's, what's the average number of youth participants? In the 7 pilot projects we did, like I said, they ran from November till June. The average county had about 1,200 participants in the projects they did. On the actual WAHI, the teentruth.org, we've had over 200,000 visitors to date to that site since March of this year. And then again, how were youth recruited? Youth recruited in the county programs. That was done on a county-by-county level. Now, for focus groups of our WAHI, we recruited youth from our community-based organizations.
There's a question from Stephanie Washington. Do you have any tools available as opposed to a curriculum that a youth health educator at the state level could incorporate into, let's say, a 50 program pertaining to HIV, STDs? I will tell you there's a great, that Center for Disease Control and Prevention has a great STD program. It's called STD 101, and it's a very visually created program that explains the link between STDs and HIV. I would recommend that one. There are a number of programs that have been shown to be effective in working with youth. Community-based organizations can use these. Health departments use them. But, you know, CDC has a list of evidence-based programs that can be used, not just curricula, but programs overall. And you can, I think, you can find a list of evidence-based programs at, hold on a minute. Let me look at, I have to look at my resource list. It's called What Works 2010. You might want to refer to that list of evidence-based programs.
Zena, it looks like you have another question.
Do we have legislative support for moving from, from moving from abstinence only to comprehensive sexuality education? Our state statutes are fairly general, broad. They're fairly broad regarding this topic. Although our statutes do promote abstinence as the expected standard for youth, the decision on what type of program will be delivered in the districts is really a district level decision. What we encourage our districts to do is to look at their data and to determine if what is being offered in the school district is being effective, is shown to be effective in lowering STD rates or teen birth rates. And when we ask our district leadership that question often, or when we ask teachers in districts that question, often they will say, well, we're not doing enough. But it's really a district level decision as to what type of curricula that they will offer. Personally, I believe that it's important for district level folks to look at their data, and we highly recommend that. We instruct them to do that, and then when they make a decision, they have buy-in to that decision. And we're from the state level, we're not telling them exactly what they have to do, but when they make that decision at the district level, then they really have buy-in to that decision. And I think that's an important piece.
And then I have a question from Audra. It's, have your school nurses integrated youth engagement into their daily practices? And if so, how do they measure this? They have. The training that I was speaking about gives them quick 30-second, 3-minute, 5-minute, and 10-minute activities they can do with youth that they see on a daily basis. We don't really have a way of measuring that per se. We just want to make sure that everyone that was incorporating the positive youth development approach into what they were doing. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback from the school health nurses on how it's really given them guidance on little things they could do to youth that make a big difference. And I'd be happy to, Audra, if you want to email me your address, I could send you a copy of that.
Hi, this is Gary. There's a question from Ellen Smith regarding, well, this is to all the presenters. Has anyone used positive youth development for topics such as violence prevention, or do you know anyone who has?
That would be a good question for Octavius. Octavius, are you still on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead, Octavius.
Yes, we are using it now currently. The Positive Action Program is one of the programs that has been found to diminish the occurrences of violence when it is implemented with fidelity. The program is established to do just that. I think I heard the question correctly.
And this is Greg Williamson from Washington, and the Youth Ambassadors Program in Washington State uses a youth development and youth engagement approach to engage young people in violence reduction efforts in Seattle. The young people also, when the Dalai Lama was in the Northwest doing a Seeds of Compassion event, the young people from the Ambassadors Program worked with that event and then have gone out to do compassion and violence reduction efforts in their communities, and at least one of those students has also been on our Washington State Legislative Youth Advisory Council, so they are participating both at the local level and also at the state level. There is a video about that particular program on the video link that I sent earlier about TVW. It's www.tvw.org, which is the Washington State version of C-SPAN, and there's an engaged page there where there are various videos about Washington State student engagement and positive youth development programs that you could use for a teaching tool in education or health or social and health services settings.
Yes, and we're also utilizing the OVEUS bullying program, integrating the two concepts of positive action and OVEUS to work on the diminishing of violent behaviors among our youth in the Madison County School District.
I have a question from Willie Rhodes to Shay. Shay, you mentioned mini grants. What is the source of your funding for those grants?
We used actual general revenue funding here at the department. Most of our adolescent health funding had gone away at that point. We had a new chief of staff that started last year, and he has a keen interest on adolescent health and positive youth development, so he was able to procure some funding for us for that. We're currently, of course, seeking more grant funding because of the economy. We probably will not get that money back for the next year, but we're seeking grant funding and some other avenues.
And this is Greg from Washington State, and I would encourage people to look at the Action for Healthy Kids website and Students Taking Charge, because that's where we got our funding for our 10 school health teams. Was I think we had $1,500 per building for 10 buildings to do the Students Taking Charge process, which would address a lot of the issues that we're talking about on the phone today, but it's not state government funding.
There was a question. By Valerie concerning STD screenings, of course, as you all know, STD screenings are widely available at the local health departments. But there are a couple of districts in Florida that have full-service clinics in their schools. Hillsborough County would be one of those. I think Miami-Dade County is one of those. And I even think that a small district that's located near Tallahassee may still have a couple of full-service clinics in their schools, and they are able to offer STD screenings in those full-service clinics. Of course, they have to have parental permission to be able to do that, and they offer a number of services in those full-service clinics.
Are there any additional questions or comments? And remember to unmute your phone, hit *7. If there aren't any additional questions or comments, I will certainly like to thank all of our presenters, Greg Williamson, Sina Zipperer, Reverend Octavius Tukes, and Shay Chapman. It's been a pleasure to hear from you about the different approaches that you all have taken in applying positive youth development in the work that you do. Again, the presentations will be made available following this webinar, so we will have all the slides available for download, and the recording of this webinar would also be available for download. Also, we will include a resource list from all our presenters so you can have all that wonderful information in one place. And then following the webinar, you will be directed to a survey that we have. We certainly enjoy offering these webinars and certainly like to improve both the content and the format. So we would certainly welcome your input and feedback in how we can do that. Again, I would like to say thank you to our presenters, and also thank you to all the participants for your great questions and taking the time today to hear from our presenters. And up is the contact information for the National Stakeholders Collaborative. If you would like to contact any of us in our respective organizations, our information is there. So with that, I would like to conclude this webinar, and I wish you all well.
Thank you. Please stand by.